Welcome back to AI in 5. I'm your host, Simon Chris. Joining me today from Canberra is Anthea Roberts. Anthea is not only a professor at the Australian National University, she's also CEO of Dragonfly Thinking. And we're going to be talking about how Dragonfly Thinking interacts with AI. Hi, Anthea, and welcome to AI in 5. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
We're going to jump right on in, and I want to start by honing in on the name of your company, this Dragonfly Thinking, and the fact that dragonflies have thousands of lenses that they use to almost get a 360-degree view. And I guess you're carrying that over into your work, but I'm really interested to know how that carries over into AI.
Well, so you're absolutely right. Dragonfly thinking comes from research about who it's best at understanding complex problems. And they found that traditional disciplinary experts tend to do a bad job because they overemphasize one lens of analysis. That the people that do the better job, they have one thing in common, which is they tend to see the world through dragonfly eyes, because just as you said, dragonflies have thousands of lenses that they incorporate into an almost 360-degree vision of reality. And they actually use that to be the best predators in the business because they're able to fly to where prey is going to go instead of where it has been. Yep. And so this is something that some of the best forecasters in the world have, these quality traits. We see them in leading CEOs, we see them in intelligence agencies, but it's a very hard way to think. And one of the things we realized when LLMs came along is that they were actually perfect vehicles for doing dragonfly thinking. And so what we do is we build what's called cognitive architecture over the models to get them to look at many different stakeholder perspectives, many different expert perspectives, to identify drivers across different disciplines that may be driving particular complex problems. We do feedback loops, tipping points, future scenarios, and all of this is at a level that is hard to do just in your own head, but LLMs provide the perfect vehicle for seeing in dragonfly ways.
And is the advent of reasoning models ratcheting that up another step again?
So the reasoning models are fantastic, and the reasoning models actually have the complex chains of thought, which is the cognitive architecture. But the downside of the reasoning models is that the way they do it is they have the complex chain of thought towards an answer which is right or wrong at the end. And when they're right, they keep the chain of thought, and when they're wrong, they get rid of it. That works really well for science, for STEM, for maths, for coding, where there is a right or wrong answer. But the areas that I'm really interested in are complex geopolitical or social or political issues that don't have right or wrong answers. And so part of it is, how do you build the cognitive architecture to think through things like the clean energy transition or US-China relations, where you can't get a right or wrong answer at the end, and so you can't train them in the same way as the reasoning models.
Yeah, wow. So you've built this cognitive architecture that sits over the top, right? Did you do that through reusing existing frameworks and things you had, or?
The way we first came to it actually was with one of the frameworks I developed that I sort of create what the intelligence agencies would call structured analytic techniques. And there were two ones that I'd created. One was about the pushback against economic globalization through 6 different narratives that I did my last book on. And that led me to a policy paper about risk, reward, and resilience of how to create integrative policy making. And so we started with those two. It was actually someone by the name of Sam Bide who first did it. He was a young policymaker who created something he called RoboAnthea, and RoboAnthea was trained on my academic work, including my unpublished academic work, and they would ask RoboAnthea policy questions. RoboAnthea would come forth. So part of me thought it was creepy because it was RoboAnthea, but part of me was just fascinated at how you could take these cognitive structures I'd been building over many decades and actually use them on models to make them more accessible to people and to do this complex thinking. So I leant in and we renamed it Dragonfly Thinking because I'm obviously a dragonfly thinker, but there are many other dragonfly thinkers as well. And one of the things we actually notice with the AI models is that often people that are sort of cognitively diverse on like ADHD spectrums, or people that like many different aspects, we're really noticing that they're often leaning into generative AI and having almost a superpower with using them. So I think there might be a relationship between people that like to look at things from many aspects, many disciplines, many approaches, and both the tools we use, but also generative AI itself.
Yeah, wow. Okay, amazing. This could be like a 4-hour podcast, but we are at time. I love to ask everybody that comes on the show the same question. And that question is what piece of advice would you have for an organization just starting their AI journey? What should they be thinking about or doing?
You need to play. So I think a lot of people think that AI is like a tool. I think of it as a collaborator. The only way that you develop the human AI capability is actually through play-based learning. So you need to stop thinking about ROIs and immediate like efficiency gains and just start building the capability through playful ways of getting to know these models. And in doing so, you actually build your capability and then you identify the use cases. If you try to flip it, I just think that you never really get started with the potential of these models.
Yeah, I totally agree. That's great advice. Anthea, thank you so much for being a part of AI in 5.
Thank you for having me.